People on the streets of Russia's capital were skeptical about the prospect of a possible ceasefire in Ukraine. Russia shouldn't wait for anything. We need to go on until victory in the special military operation, said Moscow resident Nikolai. According to Associated Press, another local, Natalia, called the Ukrainian army terrorists, saying, "What can we agree on with them?" Kiev signaled on Tuesday after talks in Saudi Arabia that it was open to a US-backed 30-day ceasefire in the war with Russia, pending Moscow's agreement. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said Wednesday that it's important not to get ahead of the question of responding to the ceasefire proposal. He told reporters that Moscow is awaiting detailed information about it from the US and suggested that Russia must get that first before it can take a position. Meanwhile, US arms deliveries to Ukraine resumed Wednesday, officials said, a day after the Trump administration lifted its suspension of military aid and intelligence sharing for Kyiv in its fight against Russia's invasion. The administration's decision marked a sharp shift from only a week ago, when it imposed the measures in an apparent effort to push Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenski to enter talks to end the war with invading Russian forces. The suspension of U.S. assistance came days after Zelensky and President Donald Trump argued about the conflict in a tense White House meeting. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who led the U.S. delegation to the talks in Jeddah, said Washington would present the ceasefire offer to the Kremlin, which has so far opposed anything short of a permanent end to the conflict without accepting any concessions.
Нас еще не было на переговорах, мы еще свое слово не говорили, поэтому это пока вот разговоры ни о чем, можно даже вот так сказать.
Добрый день, позвольте несколько вопросов.
Пока те не добьются того, что хотят, и пока мы не добьемся, чего хотим, все и будет продолжаться. России ждать нечего, надо продолжать. До победного конца. До победы в СУ.
Все будет так же, как летали дроны. Я думаю, так же и будут, потому что, там террористические группировки, о чем с ними можно договариваться?
The Kremlin has been very clear that it is not interested in a ceasefire. Which doesn't mean that it's not interested in the ceasefire, but it does mean that it's not likely to agree to a ceasefire without extracting various things along the way.
Moscow region residents said they heard loud explosions early Tuesday after several Ukrainian drones crashed into residential buildings outside Russia's capital. According to Associated Press, residents of Vidnoy and Ramenskoy, surrounding Moscow, said several explosions occurred early in the morning as drones hit the high-rise residential buildings, damaging the top floors and sending broken glass to scatter nearby buildings and cars. The governor of the Moscow region, Andrei Vorobyov, said that 2 people were killed and 8 were wounded in the attack. Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin said over 70 drones targeted the Russian capital and were shot down as they were flying toward it. Sobyanin said the roof of a building in Moscow also sustained damage, which he described as insignificant. The Russian military said its air defenses shot down 337 Ukrainian drones over 10 Russian regions overnight in what appears to be the biggest Ukrainian drone attack on Russia in 3 years, hours before key Ukraine-US talks were to start on Tuesday.
Звук был ужасный, у меня 2 часа сердце не могло успокоиться. Ужасный.
Ну, в 5 утра мы услышали, как бух был большой, а потом как бы взрыв, и не один был взрыв. Ну, очень жутко было и страшно, прям дома тряслись.
В районе 5 утра проснулись от взрывов, грохотов. Ну и на улицу вышли. Ну, один, потом буквально там 2-3 минуты, 5, второй взрыв. Сейчас во второй дом прилетело.
Ukraine is actively developing a surface fleet that could launch FPV drones from its deck. Since 2024, such an unmanned surface fleet has been in service with Ukraine, Forbes reports. But they recently carried out their most ambitious strike yet, driving along the coast of Russian-occupied southern Ukraine on or before Friday and launching FPV drones to blow up a pair of Russian OSA and Strela air defense systems. The Sternenko Foundation reports that this strike was made possible thanks to innovative solutions by Ukrainian engineers. Unmanned surface vessels such as the Sea Babies and Magura V5 can carry up to 4 of these drones. Until recently, Ukraine carried out strikes on Russian military facilities in the Black Sea using surface drones that were packed with explosives. Ultimately, the Kremlin had to use not only the Coast Guard to counter the boats, but also aviation, but even here the enemy was in for surprises. In 2024, the Magura V5 surface drone managed to shoot down several Mi-8 helicopters using surface-to-air missiles. From now on, the unmanned boat is not a kamikaze, but can return to base to load new FPV drones. And with a lot of luck and skill, one unmanned boat can destroy many Russian targets. The unmanned surface vehicles and the quadcopter drones they launched recorded each other carrying out the coastal raid deep in the enemy's rear, according to the Sternenko Fund, which collects donations to buy drones for the Ukrainian military. This wonderful result was made possible thanks to the combat work of the Navy in cooperation with the SBU, innovative solutions from Ukrainian engineers and your donations, the fund stated. Early in Russia's 3-year wider war on Ukraine, the USVs exclusively targeted Russian warships, and only on one-way sorties. Their hulls packed with explosives, the boats would slip into Russian-controlled ports and ram Russian vessels. In separate raids on Crimean anchorages in February, May and June 2024, the USVs sank a corvette, a landing ship, a patrol boat and a tugboat. The Russian Black Sea Fleet deployed fighter jets, helicopters and patrol boats to intercept the drone boats before they could strike, so last year the Ukrainian Navy, Security Service and Intelligence Directorate armed some of the USVs with surface-to-air missiles and remotely aimed machine guns. In becoming drone carriers, the USVs are now reusable, just like Ukraine's latest drone bombers are. That means a single unmanned boat might, with a little luck and skill on the part of its operators back on land, destroy more than one Russian target.